Well, thanks for joining us this afternoon on WTOC Plus as we continue to track the winter storm and snow moving into the coastal empire and low country. I'm digital anchor Jude Binkley, joined with meteorologist Dylan Smith, who's taken over as we continue our hour-by-hour coverage here on WTOC Plus and the WTOC Facebook page. Dylan, what's the latest? What are we looking at? Because I know snow is set to move in this afternoon.
Well, we are actually already getting reports of some snowflakes over in parts of Bullitt County, over in parts of Screven County as well. Just the outskirts, the vast majority of it just now starting to move towards the Vidalia area. And it's going to be pushing its way in as we go into the next few hours. Outerlying areas start seeing it here within 1 to 2 o'clock. As we get closer to Beaufort, Hinesville, probably closer to 4 to 6 o'clock. But take a little bit closer look at what we're seeing. As you can see, that first little bit of it just now working its way into parts of Montgomery County, also over there towards Vidalia and up towards the Swainsboro area. Temperatures right now not supporting the snow. It's going to be hard for anything to be sticking, but as that colder air starts to work its way in, we will expect some of that to stick. And we're having a little bit of issues with showing the contours here, but you can see gusty winds have started to push into the area. And we're also looking at feels-like conditions in the 20s for a lot of those areas. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing the snow out there. How much of it's actually going to stick this early on, that is going to be the key. But pretty much what we're going to be looking at as we go into tonight is higher rain chances or snow accumulation chances as well. A little bit of mixture here in Savannah as we get closer to 8. Those pretty much drop off once we get past midnight. But notice our temperature. Once we get past 5 o'clock, we're back below freezing. That's when we'll really look for more of the sticking of the snow to start taking place. So as that happens, anywhere pretty much right at I-16 and farther south could see a dusting to 1 inch. Here in Savannah and areas to the north, I'm not looking for 2+ inches for anyone, but we do have some heavier bands that could come through, and that could cause those isolated amounts for that 2+. Majority of us in the northern areas going to be sitting around 1 if you're lucky, maybe a 1 to 1.5. And basically where we do see that by tomorrow morning could lead to a little bit of black ice concerns. Now, areas around Chatham County, major roads, interstates, they're putting the brine down, not looking at too many issues with that, but shady spots, secondary roads, maybe your sidewalk or your driveway. If you have any extra sand, maybe from hurricane season, would be the worst idea to throw that out onto the driveway before you go to bed tonight. It'll help melt some of that and have a problem seeing it reform. But pretty much here's what we're going to look at as we go through this afternoon. This is looking on our model run closer to about 2 o'clock. Notice where that rain snow line is at. Still looking at rain here in Savannah, but then once we get past 5, it starts to transition over. Where you see those darker purple parts right there, those are the heavier bands. Okay. If this was a thunderstorm, this is where we'd look for that really heavy rainfall to be at. Same kind of concept, but it's within snow this time. So where you see the heavier snow bands, that's where you will get isolated amounts of higher accumulation possible. Now, granted, with all of this, though, we're going to have 25-mile-an-hour winds out there. So lower visibility, lots of gusty wind, no reason for anybody to be out on the roads tonight. And then we have the extremely cold air that's going to be working its way in as we go into the overnight. The nice part about this snow, it's not going to be a slushy kind of snow. So a lot of that black ice concerns tomorrow morning really not going to be as high as what we'd normally look for when you have that slush. You have this dryness, it's harder for it to happen. But then once we get the sun tomorrow, what could we see going into tomorrow evening, going into Monday? Still, for your starting temperatures across the area, no reason to be outside if you don't have to. It's going to be mid to upper teens, lower 20s out along the coast. And once you add in those wind speeds, it's going to feel like single digits out there. So if something were to happen, if you were to get stuck out on the roadways, not a place that you want to be, not safe being outdoors, having to fix your car for extended periods of time. So that's why we're advising nobody get out on those roadways unless you absolutely have to. And don't forget about your pets, plants, pipes, and other people. If it's too cold for you, it's definitely too cold for them. Be sure to bring them inside. And if you don't have a place where you can get them inside, get them out of the elements if you can. Give them some extra food. That's how their bodies will stay warmer, by producing that food, essentially, like through their bodies. So also, if you're going to be using space heaters tonight, be sure to give yourself at least 3 feet of space. With these high winds, dry conditions, any fire that does happen tonight, it's going to be very hard to tame. We'll put it that way. So definitely lots to think about. Just precautions so that you don't have problems going into tomorrow. And tomorrow is another first alert weather day. Sunny skies throughout the day. That'll help out with some of the melting. Thing is, we're only going to get to the upper 30s to lower 40s, and then we're going to cool down quickly. By 7 o'clock, back to mid 30s. We'll be back below freezing probably by the time we get to about 8. But for your highs, it's upper 30s to lower 40s with sunny skies and a little bit of breezy winds. As we go into tomorrow, tomorrow. By the time we get into the morning, still looking at up to 25-mile-per-hour wind speeds. That's why the feels like is so strong. We'll have those through the afternoon, and they should settle down as we head into tomorrow evening. But that temperature also going to cool down very quickly, back below freezing by the time we get to 10 o'clock. And so as we head into tomorrow evening, those temperatures cool back down into the upper 20s, closer to 11. And then still what we're going to look for after this whole system works its way out, we've got warmer weather that's going to be filtering its way in back into the lower 60s by the time we get to about the middle of the week. And we'll feel that in our mornings as well. I was supposed to hold on to another first alert weather day for your Monday, but still regardless, you get the premise of what we're going to look at. Not as much for rain chances until we get into the second half of the week, and we do track another front that's going to come closer to the area, but still not going to look for any snow during that time. And we still have Groundhog Day coming up on Monday, every meteorologist's favorite day of the year, without a doubt. I mean,
great movie.
Why not trust a rodent with your forecast? You know, we're not going to go there. Anyway, first alert weather day still sticks around from Sunday into Monday. We get higher rain chances on Wednesday, and then we cool down a little bit as we head into the second half of next week, but nowhere near what we've seen going into the second half of last week and on into this week. Jude, questions?
I've got a couple things I want to touch on. First off, you said how about we're not necessarily getting that slushy snow. It's going to be more of that powdery type of snow. One thing, if you do plan on driving with the wind gusts we're going to be seeing, that type of powdery snow can really reduce visibility when you're getting it blowing around
100%.
that much. So that's something I wanted to touch on, and we will have some driving advice coming up in just a few minutes. There's that. Then also, Dylan, I saw that tomorrow our highs are in the low 40s. Mm-hmm. The snow that we get that sticks, could it melt tomorrow, or do you think it'll stick around longer than that?
So that's really the biggest question with a lot of things. Anything that does melt later on today is going to have chances to refreeze tomorrow, obviously, underneath whatever snow that we do see, because right now anything that's falling out there is probably melting, and that could become a layer of ice underneath the snow tomorrow. So that's kind of what I was talking about with the premise of that graphic, just basically to use extra caution, especially if you're higher, like farther north in the area. Tomorrow's going to really be a coin flip. I would say secondary roads definitely could see a little something by Monday. Shady spots, roads that are shaded in the neighborhoods, could see a little stuff sticking around by Monday. The key to everything is the sunlight we get tomorrow and the windy conditions as well, because that's going to speed up that process of evaporation a little bit. But anywhere that is wet going into tomorrow evening will have the chance for ice on Monday. So definitely tomorrow evening, as we get close to sunset, take a walk around your property. Make sure you see areas that are wet, areas that still have the ice, because obviously that's going to be ice again, and stuff of that nature, so you can be prepared for Monday.
Yeah. And we have been getting a lot of phone calls into the newsroom about, like, hey, is this town going to be okay with the roads? A lot of that also depends on
Your
just
town.
the county road agencies, you know, where GDOT prioritizes. Typically, the order is interstates, arterials, which are the bigger roads, as you mentioned. You know, in Savannah, it would be Victory, Abercorn, those types of
21.
places. Exactly.
Well, just because of the port. Let's be honest with ourselves here.
So it's hard to, predict specifically, especially if you're in a more rural community or a town. If it's Main Street, it's probably getting hit first, but those roads going into neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs, those types of places typically don't see treatment. That's especially, coming from Idaho the last 3 years, we deal with snow a lot. So if you are, leaving a neighborhood and getting on a main road, like, you're going to likely still see some type of impact on the ground.
Agreed.
That's where you really want to be careful. Once you make it to a state highway or an interstate, it is a little different. But
now, along with that as well, though, with it being that type of snow, one thing I do want to put in perspective, usually with events like this, we're seeing the sleet, we're seeing the freezing rain with it, and the freezing rain's the killer. That's the true worst thing you can have, because that's when you get ice coatings on trees start to fall from the weight, you get ice coatings on power lines, they start falling. It's so dry out there, we're not really going to be looking for hardly any freezing rain. It's going to go from rain to snow, and it's going to be very dry. So it's really the stuff that's on the ground that'll have the chance for ice going into tomorrow. Not really looking at high of concerns for power outages unless people are on the roads. Then visibility will be lower. It'll be windy. If you run into a power pole and knock it down, someone probably is going to lose power 100%. And that's why we want to advise everybody, it's not a place to be tonight. If you can stay home, stay inside, watch yourself some good movies on Netflix.
Or watch WTOC.
Or watch WTOC. We'll be here too.
Yeah. Before I'm checking the Facebook comments, a couple of folks talking about snowing in Statesboro right now.
Yes, something right there.
I also want to pull up, since we are getting comments about where exactly the snow is, I just want to pull up this map one more time just to kind of go over, that band around the 16, anything north of that, it's where we could see the most
That
snowfall.
dark blue area, if you're anywhere there north, so pretty much anywhere north of the It looks like Pembroke is what it's got on there, but I believe that's a little misplaced. So anywhere north of Vidalia, anywhere north of...
Yeah, we're hearing about snow in Vidalia as well right now from Rachel.
As well. And some of those, it can be, this is not a perfect line. It's going to be hit or miss by probably about 10, 20 miles on either side. But this is, as a whole, this is where we're going to be expecting the highest amount of accumulations.
And again, looking at Facebook comments, we are hearing about active snow in some of those northwest areas of the
Yes,
snap
and that's
right
what we
now.
were talking about when we first got on, talking about how it was about to be working its way into Montgomery County and towards Vidalia, all those places up towards Jenkins, Screven County, Sylvania.
Awesome. And it's already made its way through parts of north and middle Georgia this morning. We're talking about this just a moment ago.
How do
we
we
actually
pronounce
want to...
How do we pronounce
Raven
it?
County.
There
we'll
we
get to
go.
that in a second. I want to show you some of this footage, though, that our sister station and some other crews captured. This is from Flowery Branch in Hall County in northeast Georgia. They're seeing snowfall for the second weekend in a row out there.
If they got snow instead of ice last weekend, they were doing good, so good for them.
Yeah, no, northeast Georgia really getting it. You can see the snowplows out in full force, but a lot of snow there. We also have a couple cameras from Blairsville out in Union County. These were the early morning hours. You can see how heavy it's falling, especially on that right side. And we've got some pictures out of Dylan's home county, Raven.
In Raven County, and they got pounded with ice last weekend. So all the kids got excited for the snow, and it was just a ton of ice. So I'm definitely glad that they're getting some of those snow days out there right now. So definitely hello, Mom and Dad. I know they're probably going to be watching this sometime.
Nice.
But yeah, and that's where a lot of the snow is originating from, coming around the backside of the mountains and working its way into our region, and that's what we're going to be tracking as we go into the next few hours. It's a lot of hurry up and wait at this point. Hopefully everybody's gotten everything they need to settle in, get cozy, and we'll let you know everything we're seeing and what we're going to be looking at. Once these heavier bands come through, we'll be able to tell you a lot more what we're going to be seeing going into the next few days in certain areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should note that here on WTOC, we are expanding our coverage throughout the day. We've been doing these updates at the top of the hour, every hour. We're going to continue that. So, Dylan, you'll join us again at 2. We do have crews heading into the newsroom who'll be out in different parts of the area. They'll be joining us live throughout the afternoon and evening as we do see those impacts from snow. So at the top of the hour, you can tune in right here on WTOC Plus or the WTOC Facebook as we do continue to track this winter storm and its impacts across the coastal empire and low country. So, Dylan, wanted to thank you for joining us this afternoon. We'll check in about 45 minutes. We do have a couple of other things we'd like to tell you about, though. As we continue to talk about snow across parts of middle and north Georgia, it's created some dangerous driving conditions as well. This is footage from out of Forsyth County where some roads are just blanketed in snow. Crews are working to clear the roads. However, Mother Nature isn't done just yet. You can see these cameras that captured a car trying to make it up a hilly roadway, only to, as you can see, slide back down. Several agencies across middle and north Georgia are advising everyone to stay off the roads if you don't need to step out. And because of the heavy snow heading our way, drivers are being urged to stay off the roads or at least be very careful if you do have to drive. The best practices for winter weather start before any snow or sleet falls. You'll want to use good judgment when hitting the road and make sure you have a good tire tread. The tread should be visible and not smooth. You can think of the quarter trick. I was saying penny trick earlier in the early shows. I apologize for that. It's the quarter trick. You don't want to see the top of Washington's head when you put the quarter in your tire tread. Another tip is to keep a good distance between other cars. It's recommended about a 6 to 8 second distance. And if you do find yourself sliding, you want to hold the car steady. Don't press the brakes, and don't panic. And ahead of this winter storm, many people are looking for ways to stay warm. The Burton Fire District says to make sure that if you're using a space heater or another heating source, make sure it's 3 feet away from anything else in your home. You want to make sure that the heater is not near anything flammable, like a blanket or clothes, and that you don't put those flammable things on top of the heater. Another thing the department stresses is making sure that you don't plug that heater into an extension cord. Instead, you want to plug it straight into a wall.
Well, the fire risks we'd have are going to be people heating their homes. Like we said, plug in a space heater into an extension cord. The extension cords are not permanent wiring, so it's not designed to carry electricity like that.
And if you have questions about possible fire dangers in your home, you could always reach out to your local fire district as well. I do want to note that the the space heater thing has been a huge issue recently. Here at WTOC, we've covered a number of fires, probably half a dozen just this month, of space heater fires that started by someone plugging it into an extension cord. So if you're using one, just be careful. You want to plug that straight into the wall because that's what is designed to handle that wattage output. All right, well, with winter weather comes the potential of losing power. Fortunately, the powdery snow doesn't create quite as high of a likelihood as that, but we still want to talk about ways you can prepare. Some things to think about throwing in an emergency kit include batteries, flashlights, canned food, and even a board game to keep your family occupied. We spoke to the director of SEMA for more tips.
So we encourage people to have an emergency kit year-round. This is something that you can put into a Tupperware container, throw it in your closet. That way you have all the provisions of your family.
And warming shelters are now opening up across the coastal empire and low country as we prepare for this winter storm this weekend. One of those is the Sea Island Presbyterian Church in Beaufort, which opens anytime the temperatures drop below freezing. They offer people a warm place to stay and sleep while also giving them a warm meal to eat. Now, normally they see about 15 people each time they open. However, this weekend they're expecting that number to double.
With the weather we're expecting this weekend, Saturday night, I would expect an increase from that 32 that we had last night for sure.
And staying in the low country, there will be a warming shelter open on Hilton Head Island at Christ Lutheran Church, as well as one in Ridgeland at Kingdom Touch Ministries. And you can actually find a full list of the shelters that are open. This is our website right now. You can see we have our latest forecast pinned to the top of the homepage, as well as that warning for the freeze warning and the winter storm warnings we're seeing. Then right here on the right side of the screen, we have a handful of lists, including the warming shelters that are open right now. We do a county-by-county breakdown if you or someone you know is in need of a place to stay warm. We should also note Chatham County Transportation Assistance is helping folks as well, offering transportation to some of those shelters. So you can find that full list of resources on our website right now at WTOC.com. And finally, wanted to have a little bit of fun as we round out this show on WTOC Plus, because deputies in Paulding County, Georgia, are reminding you a snow day can be about safety, but can also be about a little bit of fun as well. Take a look.
The roads are nearly covered, and it's coming down pretty significantly. So, if you're going to get out, be super careful, because it is coming down on the west side.
If y'all know anything about him, he does not like to be dirty or his hair messed up. And he's got to sit in my car like that.
Look at that's perfect. And if you do get out today, please be careful. We don't want to have to come out and rescue folks that get injured or hurt because they're out playing around. But the snow's beautiful. It's really cold.
All right, nice to see some law enforcement having fun this afternoon. And with that, we are going to wrap up our coverage for the 1 o'clock hour here on WTOC Plus. Before we sign off, just again wanted to remind you, prioritize the 4 Ps as we prepare for snow. That's people, pets, plants, and pipes. Check in on your neighbors, check in on your family, just make sure they're good, as we are now starting to see snow fall across the region. I'll actually pull up that map one more time because we've been getting a couple of questions about it. This is what we're expecting. This is what we are looking at this afternoon. Again, we're hearing about snow already falling in Vidalia and Statesboro as well. And with the snow falling, we are expanding our coverage throughout the day right here on WTOC. Every hour on the hour, we're live here on Facebook and WTOC Plus for your latest forecast, as well as a handful of reminders and tips and some regional state news as well with the snow falling. So you can join us here in about 40 minutes for another look at your forecast. We've also got crews that are now heading out to different parts of the coastal empire and low country. They'll be joining us live throughout the afternoon and evening to show us what things are looking like in your communities and your towns. So we'll be back in 40 minutes at 2 o'clock, and would like to thank you all for watching.